Well, hello there, everyone, and welcome to my very first live that I will be doing. So today we are going to make a so-called fridge cake, which means it's not going to be baked. And what it is, in essence, is melted chocolate, and then you just add a whole bunch of stuff that you have lying around. So maybe some old biscuits, some marshmallows, some nuts. That's what we're going to use today. And my plan for this live would be that I will show you how to do that. And then while that is happening, you can put in any question either in regards to what I'm doing right there, or maybe any other questions that you have towards me. Whatever questions there are, I will either answer right away or maybe a little bit later because I have my screen down here. And so I will not see it necessarily right away. And please, anyone who's watching right now, if you could just write if you can hear me, if the sound is okay. Otherwise, I'll just be talking to myself, which is fine. Sometimes you need the best advice in the room, after all. Okay, well, I'm sure that we'll be having some confirmation eventually. All right, so let me first talk a little bit about this fridge cake, where it comes from, where I learned it, and all of that. So during my time while I was in the Cadet, which was from 2005 until 2008, and anyone who doesn't know what the Cadet is, it is basically where children go when their parents or one of their parents, they go into the SEOG. Everything works perfectly fine. Thank you very much indeed. Let me see if I can click on the comment. Oh, yes, there we are. Well, thank you very much for confirming that. Excellent. Thank you. All right. And so, yeah, the Cadet is the place where the children go when the parents, they are in the SEOG. Although in the past, I have heard of the parents giving away the children to work in the Cadet, and then they have some sort of guardian that sort of legally is supposed to look after them, but then it doesn't usually end up that way. In any case, when I was in the Cadet, I was posted in the 2nd division of the Cadet Org Board, which is responsible. Well, it's supposed to be responsible for promotion and marketing, but one of the other things in it is to make money. I was supposed to make money and then give it to the department number 3 next to me, Treasury, and then they decide what to do with the money. And then one of the way we did it was making laundry. So we would do the laundry for the different SEOG members, and also we do baking and cooking and things like that. And then in the evening, when the SEOG members would come back from the 12, 14, 16 hours days of work, we would sell the cakes and whatever we had. And I think maybe the cheapest thing we had was maybe like 30 pence. So this was, by the way, in England, at East Grinstead in St. Hill. So this was, I think 30 pence was like the cheapest item. And maybe the most expensive item was 60 or 70 pence, because we made flapjacks. And one of them we made with golden syrup and margarine. And I think that one was like 50 pence. And then we made another one a little bit like, high end or whatever, with a bit of honey and butter instead. And I think that one we sold for 70 pence or something like that. In any case, we're going to make now this fridge cake. It is excellent to be used for example, if you have a dinner party or whatever, and afterwards you serve coffee or tea, and then you can add a little one of those to that, because it is rather overwhelming. If you have a proper piece, it can be quite overwhelming because it's basically pure chocolate with lots of stuff in it. So let me first introduce to you the ingredients. Right here. So first of all, we have some chocolate, which I've already melted. So this is about 400 grams or 12 ounces of chocolate. And then we have here some marshmallows, which we'll be cutting up. Then I have here some dark chocolate, because this is milk chocolate. So we put in some dark chocolate chips in there. We cut them up as well. Then the other day, I made a little tutorial how to make so-called persuasion cookies. And I made some with chocolate chips and some with oats and nuts. And it's very strange because it's always the healthier ones that are left over. And the chocolate chips they're never left over. So anyway, I've got these left over. They're a little dry. We cut them up, put them in there as well. And then I had a bag of different nuts and raisins and things like that. I'm not sure how you call it in English. I think in English it's called like nature trail or something like that. In German, it's a rather strange and vulgar name. It's called Studentenfutter, which futter is feed, like the stuff you would give to an animal. So it's basically called student feed. a bit of a strange name for it, but in any case, we'll add that as well. And then naturally, we'll add a little bit of suppression to it, so it brings out all the flavor. All right, and then you will need a dish. I'm going to use this dish again. I use this dish as well for the tiramisu. This has a capacity of about 800 milliliter, which are 28 ounces. And we'll be putting it in there. And then my plan would be, I'm mixing it. I'm cutting up all the ingredients that we need to be cut. We put it in there. We mix it, put it in here. I'm going to do it fairly shallow, if possible. Put it in the fridge. And then I will answer any questions that there are. And then hopefully at the end of the stream, I can take it out the fridge, cut it up so you can see how it looks. All right. So first things first, we need to do our mise en place, which is obviously the preparation for everything. So we have here our cutting board. And safety first, of course, we'll put a little bit of rubber bits on the bottom so it doesn't slide away. Okay, so I'm going to first cut up the cookies a bit. I'm going to avoid all the small crumbs, because what they will do, they will simply make it unnecessarily thicker, the chocolate. Now, what you have to watch out for, there's really only one thing you need to really watch out for when you make this, is don't get too excited by all the ingredients that you can put in there. And then in the end, you have too much ingredients, and the volume of the ingredients that you put in there do not match the volume of the chocolate. And then it's almost like when you make concrete and you add little stones in there, in there, and then you add too much stone and there's not enough concrete, well, it won't hold. So when you cut into this fridge cake, it will just fall apart. So it's important to keep an eye on that. So I'm just going to cut all 3 of these cookies. We might not even need all of them. All right. Now we got the dark chocolate. And we're going to put it here, right there. Excellent. So anyone who wonders, let me see, is there already a question? Not yet, okay. But anyone who is wondering, I've been cooking since I was, well, really, since I was a cadet. When I was a cadet, I was obviously doing all the cakes. I was in charge of that. There was this brilliant girl. Her name was Melian de Caroles, and she was basically doing that job before I came there. And then when I arrived in the Cadet, she was just about to leave. So in the Cadet, when you leave, well, what I meant with leave is she was going to do the EPF, the Estate Project Force, which is like boot camp that you have to do before you actually can join the SEOC. And she was just about to go on there. I think I arrived maybe a few months beforehand. So I was able to get to meet her, talk to her a little bit. And she taught me a little bit of baking. And then, so that's basically when I started, when I was about 13 years old. And after I was done with the with the Cadet, and then I went to the EPF. Then I started to work in the stables, which is, oh, by the way, now I'm cutting up the marshmallows. These are fairly large marshmallows, so I'm going to cut them smaller. You can buy like small ones, I know that, but I happen to have these marshmallows here. That's why I'm going to take these. And this is actually, I don't know if I actually mentioned it, this is actually a very good dessert to make, or a little treat. I don't really want to call it dessert because a dessert would imply it's a portion. This is more like a little treat or something. And this is excellent to use when you have leftover things. So I had some marshmallow leftovers. I had, as I said, these dried cookies that I can use. I have these nuts and raisins left over. So this is perfect to use these sort of things in there. You don't have to buy any special ingredient. Obviously, because I'm Swiss, I naturally always have chocolate at home. And then I have all of these bits just lying around. So, yeah. Anyway, so I'm just cutting these up into smaller bits. I'm probably not even going to use all of them. I'm already going to take some of it out. I can already tell it's going to be too much. So yeah, so I started to work then at the stables, which is, it is actually an old stable. It was built in 18 something. It used to say it there was a family crest right at the entrance of the stables, and on the top there was a date 76, something along that date, and it was an actual stables for one of the lords at the time that owned Saint Hill Manor, and they had obviously their horses there, and then now it was then converted. I think in this, I don't know if it was already in the 60s or if it was in the 70s when it was converted into the place where the staff would go and eat. In any case, that's what it was when I was then finished. Well, when I was in the Cadet, and then when I was in the EPF, and then after I finished the EPF, during that time, my first live with Fabulous Sarahs. I'm so excited. There we are. Well, I do hope I'm not going to disappoint because it is a live, so let's see what happens. Yeah. So where was I? Already lost my train of thought. It's terrible. Okay, so that's the stables. And in the stables, there's the galley, which is a ship's term for the kitchen, where all the food for the staff was cooked. Well, all. I say all. It's really lunch and dinner, because the breakfast was served at Walsh Manor, which is in Crowborough, which is about 20 minutes drive away from St. Hill, which is where all the staff lived at the time. I'm assuming that's still the case, that all of the staff lived there. I haven't heard anything different. So we would cook the lunch and dinner for all the staff. And in the same building, there was also the canteen. And when I finished the EPF, I actually started first off in the canteen and helping out also in the kitchen, mainly doing the washing up, cleaning the dining rooms, and also helping a bit out in the kitchen. But I was mainly working really in the canteen, because when I took over the canteen was basically empty. So what I did, I actually took my own money and I bought ingredients, and then I made cakes, because I already learned to do that when I was in the Cadet, and I had already grown a certain reputation for my particularly moist Victorian sponge. So that's how I started off the canteen, and that managed to obviously generate pure profit, because there was my own money that I spent on the ingredients, and that way I was able to build up the canteen. So I spent time baking the cakes. I made flapjacks, and I actually sort of upgraded them. I made them in sort of protein bars, because what I did, I added nuts to them. I added different dried fruits and things like that as a sort of a protein source. So yeah, and then eventually what happened was that Christopher, which was one of the cooks in there, he decided to take a little holiday. And I thought that was never going to be approved. And then it was approved. And then I ended up being in the kitchen. And then it turned out, actually, I'm pretty good at the kitchen. And so they decided to keep me in there. And then that's when, I really started basically working full on in the kitchen, cooking, obviously still doing washing up, cleaning the dining rooms. And then wherever I could, I would help out in the canteen, because I then got a deputy canteen IC who then took over it, and then she ruined all of it. Anyway, I do talk about this on my interview with Jeff from PTS for Life. If you want to check it out, it is actually on my channel. He gave me the video of it, and then it's actually uploaded there, so you can watch it if you want, or you can watch it on his channel. Okay, so now we've prepped all the ingredients. Excellent. So what we're going to do, I wanted to introduce to you, obviously, other equipment that you need. I obviously have my bendy spatula. Again, you can just use a wooden spoon, that's fine, but this is just very practical, particularly when you have a bowl. You can really get in there, in all the crevices and things. All right, and then no, we're not going to prep this yet. We're going to do this first, and then we can have a look how much we're actually going to need. Okay, so let me add some cookies first. And the chocolate, I just simply put it in a metal bowl, as you can see. A ceramic bowl would also work. And then I took a regular pot, put some water in it, and then I heated up, and I put it on top of it, and then through the steam, it just heated up the bowl and melted the chocolate. This is what you would refer to as indirect heat, because the heat happens on the bottom. It heats up the water, and the water, or rather the steam, heats up the bowl, because chocolate chocolate is a bit of a diva. You do need to take care that no water, for example, gets in there. I'm sure some of you may have seen what happens if you have melted chocolate and just a droplet of water goes in there. It's dreadful. I can't really explain what happens, but basically all of the chocolate sort of gathers around this one droplet of water, and it just becomes all lumpy and dreadful. So you have to be careful about that, and obviously direct heat. Now, some people who have a good microwave and they know the microwave well, they will know, okay, 20 seconds like that, and you have to turn it another 20 seconds, and then it's melted and everything is fine. But if you don't know your microwave so well, or your microwave is a very powerful one, you can easily burn your chocolate. So that's how I do it, because that way nothing can really happen. Even if the water on the bottom boils, nothing's going to happen with it. So that's really the best method. Just wanted to mention that. All right, so I've added some of the cookies. Now we're going to add some of the nuts, some of the raisins in there. And then I'm going to give it a first little mix to see if we have already possibility to add a bit more ingredients in there. Oh yeah, that's fine. It is, as you can see, it's still very, very liquid. In other words, there's still a lot of melted chocolate in there. So we're going to add some of these lovely little marshmallows. And my plan is also to put them on top, so that, because as you can see, when it is all in the chocolate, it's all covered, so you don't really see what's in there. So my idea will be to put it then on top. We'll add a little bit of the marshmallows, maybe a few nuts, while the chocolate is still wet and melted, so it sticks onto it. So then when we take it out of the fridge, you actually have a nice little show side, you would say, presenting side, because otherwise it's just brown. It doesn't look like anything particular, exciting. Only once you cut into it, you bite into it, then you can see all the different stuff that's in there. So we're gonna try that out, and I've never done it like that while I was in a Cadet dog. I just put everything in there, sort of winged it, as they say, and then just shoved it all in a dish like this, and then try to scrape it out with the knife without breaking it. And I will show you how to do it so you don't go through that struggle, but I didn't know it at the time. So yeah, so we're gonna add a little bit more cookies, I think. Again, you can do whatever you want with it. You can, you don't have any specific ingredients you need to put in there. You can add some oats in there. Obviously, don't put anything in there that is supposed to be cooked. Like, don't put any flour in there or anything like that, because again, it's not going to be baked. It's just going to be resting in the fridge and getting hard. Okay, now I think we can add a little bit more, but we can see already, I'm not sure if you can see it very well. It is already quite, but it's still running. So if I go like this, it still runs through quite well. So the viscosity shows me that we still have some room to add a little bit more, but again, not too much. It's dreadful. It's like when you go shopping and you're starving and you just buy all of this stuff, and then you come home and then you eat and you think to yourself, what the devil did I just do? And so this tends to happen when you do this sort of thing. You get so excited what to add to it and so on and so forth, and then in the end you add too much, and then what happens, you think to yourself, all right, let me just melt a bit more chocolate. You add that to it, and then it's too much melted chocolate, and you add another thing. In the end, you have enough for 50 people. So yeah, you just have to sort of figure out for yourself how much, and you can't really add too little. In other words, you can make it in a way so that it is mainly chocolate with just a little bit of raisins, a little bit of nuts. It doesn't have to be full of stuff. I'm just making it really full of stuff just because I'm a greedy bastard. Anyway, so here we are. I would say that's pretty good. So as you move it, all the ingredients still flow, but you can see it flows a little slower. So this is a good indication. Let me just check the chat if there are any questions particular, so don't move on and ignore a question about this. Chef talks, indeed. Hello, Hans Christian Schwarz, by the way, and all of the other wonderful people. I'm terribly sorry. I didn't even say hello to you guys. Hello, darlings. Welcome to my cooking show and all of that. And by the way, I've decided to make all of my cooking shows, cooking stories or whatever that have to do with my time in the Sea Oak and in Scientology with this golden rod foulard and with my captain's hat. But I am planning to do other cooking tutorials and also talking about technique, like very basic sauces, because there are, for example, 5 basic sauces. I like to call them le 5 sauces royales, So from the French, the 5 royal sauces. And from these basic sauces, if you can really do those, you can make dozens, up to maybe 150 different sauces that you've tasted, you've seen, and they're all the basic sauce for that is one of these 5. So I am planning to do that, for example. And then when I do these sort of things, I will probably just wear a regular white foulard and just a normal chef's hat to sort of make it obvious or whatever. I haven't quite decided yet, but anyway, I just realized I think I forgot a very important ingredient, which is suppression, naturally. So we're going to add a little bit of suppression because it's true. Salt really brings out the flavor. If you eat salt just like that, it's just simply salt. It doesn't actually have any taste other than salt. And that's what it does. It just brings out the flavor of the things. Now, naturally, if you put too much suppression in here, it's going to be just too salty. You just want to add a little bit. It just gives a little bit of, brings up the flavor. Anyway, I was actually in the chat trying to see if there is a question about what I'm doing right now. Question. We have a question here from Sarah D. Need. I'm not sure. I do apologize if I butchered that name. Question: when you left the Silk, did you go straight into training to be a chef or working as a chef? No, indeed. It took me some time because, well, let me just quickly continue with this bit, and then I will tell you about that. Let me put up the question actually again, otherwise I'll forget about it. You can tell I'm all over the place. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to take this dish and we're going to line it with plastic foil, with cling film. And that way, when we then pour our chocolate mix in here, once it is dry, we can just turn it around and it will just pop out because of the plastic foil. Now, to avoid any creases or folds, which then at the end doesn't make our chocolate cake, our fridge cake look quite so nice, what we're going to do, we're going to use a little trick. We're going to take a brush. So I just took one of my paint brushes, and then we're going to dip it in a bit of water. We've got water right here. And then we just put a little bit of water in here. It just needs to be a little bit of water. You can also put a little bit of oil. Obviously, with oil, it's going to be a bit easier, but I just took water because that works just as well. And this water or oil will basically work as a sort of glue in a way, because the cling film will stick to the water. Well, it will just be attracted to it. So here's my very professional cling film. Yes, most professional, I must say. So, let me actually hide your question first so we can actually see it a bit better. There we are. So here is the dish, as I said. Here's a bit of cling foil. You just put it in there, and you can just press into it. And then I've got another brush. This one, a separate brush, because again, you don't want to get any water in contact with the chocolate. And just, as you can see, I'm not sure if you can see it very well, but it just lies in there. It doesn't come up or move around because of the water. And what I'm going to do with the brush is I'm just going to brush it along to get rid of all the creases, because as you can see, there are some creases in there. It's a bit difficult to see, but there are some creases in there. So we're just going to smoothen out the creases with the brush. You don't need to have a brush. You can also use, for example, a bit of kitchen paper. You just make it into a bowl and you just sort of press against it. I would avoid using fingers because obviously of the nails. Now, if you are a chef or a cook like myself, you don't have very long nails because you're not allowed to have that in the kitchen. So that's not a problem. But for everybody else, that could be a problem. Then you will rip up the plastic, and so therefore, what I'm doing actually is I'm just very gently doing little circles and just moving away all of those crinkly bits out of it. And as you can see now, I'm not sure if you can see it. It is completely smooth on the bottom. So we're going to continue with that a little bit on the sides. I mean, who are we kidding? This is just a fridge cake. This is nothing, to write home about. But if we are going to do this, we're going to do this properly. And so yeah, we'll do that. So let me just quickly pop up the question we had before, and then I can answer that. So question: when you left the SEOC, did you go straight into training to be a chef or working as a chef? Okay, so this is what happened. I left the SEOC in December 2012. And then I came back to Switzerland and I thought to myself, great, I didn't finish school. Just briefly touching on that, I went to a regular public school until I was 10 years old. And then from 10 to 13, I went to 2 different Scientology schools in Switzerland. So I already had a little bit of a, not exactly a great schooling from 10 to 13. And then from 13 to 16, I was in a Cadet, so there was no schooling to speak of. So I was painfully aware that now I am here in the regular world. I have no school, nothing. I didn't do an apprenticeship. I didn't do anything. I didn't really know what to do. So I ended up working in a kitchen as a sort of assistant cook, essentially. Oh, you know what? I've actually forgot to add some dark chocolate. I'm going to do that now, which is actually, it's almost as please let me know if it just buffered a little bit. If you can just quickly write if you can see me now. Let me check on my phone. I'm going to be so rude and be on my phone here. Back again. Yes, excellent. Thank you very much, Hans Christian Schwartz. All right, so I'm not sure where it disconnected, but I'm basically telling you now that I'm going to add now the dark chocolate into it, which is very convenient because beforehand the chocolate would have been obviously warmer because I had just melted it. Now, having moved it around a bit, having added the other ingredients, it has cooled down enough that I think if we add now the dark chocolate pieces, it won't melt into it, if you know what I mean. That we can actually keep it in there. As a little tip, just make sure you do cut the chocolate a little bit larger so that if it does melt a little bit, we still have a chunk left into it. I'm going to leave the little crumbly bits because we're going to put that on top of it as well. Okay, so let me just fold that into that and then add it into this prepared dish. So as I was telling you, so 2012, I came back to Switzerland. I had nothing. I didn't know what to do. So I just ended up working as an assistant cook in a restaurant because they needed a cook because one of their cooks was a lady. She had just gotten pregnant. And so she would be missing for the time for, several months. So that they needed somebody fairly quick. And so I was there for the first few months where she was still there. And then afterwards she left to have time off to have a baby and all of that. And so that was a good experience. I actually really liked working there. And during that time when I was there, I got a letter saying that because I'm a Swiss citizen, I need to go and do military service. And in Switzerland, it's obligatory for all males to do that. So I went into the military. I ended up doing 10 months. The basic training is usually, let's see, I'm probably going to get this wrong. It's either 3 or 4 months. I think it's 4 months. And I ended up being there for 10 months. And I actually had a really good time because after all, I mean, I was in a Cadet, I was in a SEOC. I grew up as a Scientology child. I mean, that was kids play. It was so easy. I was actually terrified. Well, I was a little excited going into the military, but I was quite scared because I thought maybe I'm not going to be tough enough, And after having been in the Seok and the Cadet, let me tell you, that was a walk in the park. It was nothing. Okay, so now I've just added into it. I'm just sort of smoothing out the top a little bit, so it's about even, more or less. Okay, so now here it is for now. I'm not going to tilt it too much, otherwise it's all going to slide down again. Good. Another trick you can do, you can sort of hit the bottom a little bit. This will help all or any air bubbles that you have to escape, to come up. Oh, and there are actually quite a few air bubbles. I'm not sure if you can see that. It's there are some little circles that have appeared because of the bubbles that come up and then they pop. Okay, this naturally will give it a bit more stability if there are no air bubbles. All right, that's enough. That's enough spanking for tonight. Okay, so let me just smooth it out a little bit. Okay, excellent. So now we're going to add some stuff on top. Okay, we're going to add a little bit of the chocolate chips now, the darker ones, because again, the melted chocolate is milk chocolate. These are now dark chocolate chips. Okay, then we're going to add some of those marshmallows. I'm going to press these gently on there because they are a little larger. So just to make sure that they're actually going to stick. And I'm actually already going to place it in a way where I think how I'm going to cut it. So I think I'm going to cut 3 down this way, 1, 2, 3. And in this way, we'll do, let's see, 3, 4, and 5. So I'm going to end up with 15 pieces, if my math is right, which I believe it is. So yeah, we have it already this way. So it's already portioned to make sure that everybody gets then a piece of the marshmallow. So I'm going to just press just gently down to make sure it sticks. Now we're going to add some, do we want to add some biscuits? Why not? But we'll just add some of the smaller crumbs on top of it, just randomly dispersed. I know the children are going to argue, why did he have more biscuits than I did? Well, never mind. Good, like that, that's fine. And then we're going to add some of these nuts and dried fruit on top, but not too much. Let's not completely cover it because we want to be able to see the milk chocolate on the bottom of it. All right, give this a little poke to make sure they are actually sticking onto there. It should be because the chocolate is still melted. All right, so this is how it looks right now. Looks perfectly fine. So what I'm going to do now, in fear of completely destroying this live, I'm going to take myself off the screen for a moment. I'm going to rearrange my setup so that the camera is down below, so I don't have to look up and down for the chat. And in the meantime, I'll put this in the fridge. So I'll see you in about 30 seconds. Whoops, I just realized I was muted. Never mind. Here I am, and I just realized the whole time the hat wasn't on properly. How very embarrassing. All right, so let me just quickly continue with the question. So after I So I did in my military, and during that time, I was stationed in the kitchens, as you usually are when you are a cook. Then you will be put in the kitchen of the military. I had a good time there, and I was obviously working with a young man who had just finished their apprenticeship and the schooling, either as a baker, as a cook, things like that. And I realized there's actually a lot that I didn't know. I would looking back, I would say I was able to cook quite well, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't really understand what I was doing, why the different ingredients reacted the way that they did, and why it sometimes worked, why it didn't work sometimes. To me, it was a little bit like airplanes. Why do they fly? Somehow they do, and nobody really knows why. And so that's how I sort of saw cooking. I was able to do it, but I didn't really understand the complexity of it. And frankly, I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know it was so complicated, and there was so much chemistry and mathematics behind that. And then I got to know all these young men who had, because usually in Switzerland you would do your apprenticeship, and you go to culinary school at 16. It takes 3 years with 19. And then after that, you go and do your military service. But with me, it was the other way around. So I was in the military then with 22. And then so I finished then. My last day in service was, I believe, the 24th of April, 2015. And then on the 1st of August, 2015, just a few months later, I started my apprenticeship, and I went to culinary school. And then 2018, I finished it. And then ever since, I've been working in great professional kitchens all over the place. So yeah, that's basically how it started. So since I'm 13 years old, I will be 32 this year, so almost 20 years I've been cooking. Well, actually, before that, even when I was in Scientology schools here in Switzerland, I would cook myself some lunch. I mean, it was nothing exciting. It was, soup, some broth with rice in it or things like that. But I don't know if you want to count that. But yeah, so I've been cooking for a very long time. All right, let's see if there are any questions. If you have any questions about this recipe, please do put it in there, so the whole class can hear it. Did he say chocolate? I most certainly did, darling. I most certainly did. All right. Oh, look at that. I'm totally fine with being your guinea pig for your lives. Practice makes perfect. Yes, except I would say practice makes better, because perfection, it's a dreadful thing. You can never reach it, because you can always do better. And I'm obviously talking now particularly in the kitchen, something that I did 5 years ago where I thought, that wasn't bad, and I look back at it and I do it now, I can do it so much better. So I don't think, without calling you out or invalidating what you just said, but I'm just saying, I think practice makes better rather than perfect. All right. Oh, okay. We have someone watching from Oregon. NW, please forgive my ignorance. I'm not sure what that means. New York, certainly not. Anyway, I'm sure you'll let me know. Hello from Toronto. Very nice. Here we have a comment. So smart, great tip. I'm not sure what you are referring to, but I'm assuming all of my tips that I have given you. All right, all right. So, question: when are we going to see you in a real kitchen from Rawson? Yes, as you can tell, this is not a kitchen. This is actually my room. I can't even say my living room, because I only live in a small little one-room flat, and the kitchen is even tinier. It doesn't even have enough space to put my cutting board on there properly. So I didn't really want to, put the camera in there in a way. It would have been an awkward angle. And for now, for other things that I would be cooking, where I need actually a stove, I need to actually do something, I would probably get one of those plug-in stove and then just do it here. I am planning to move eventually, but moving around, I've got so many books and so much stuff. It's always such a bore. But my plan is to move to a larger flat where I would have a bit more space. The idea would also be to get a second camera, maybe, one which would be right above where I'm working. So you just see my hands and you would see the pots and things like that. So it's a bit more clear and obvious what I'm doing. You can see the ingredients better. But this is our future plans, and we'll see how time will tell. Okay. I'm just reading some comments. I forgot about military service. Some of my Swiss friends have had to do it despite living abroad. Really? Oh, fascinating. I didn't know there was a thing. Did they have to go back? Or because I know Switzerland has military units all over the place, and they usually are there to sort of, Switzerland hasn't had a war for I think the last war was 1854, and that was even a civil war. So we've always been sort of peace brokers, and therefore we've been stationed all over the world. So I wonder if they were stationed in whatever country they were abroad, or they were told you need to come back. Okay. Are you this DOG defender of gems has fleas? Do you? You should get that checked out, my darling. All right. Are you married? Any children? If not, would you like to have a family one day? And will you do all the cooking? LOL. I have a feeling this is like an innuendo, but I don't get it. Am I doing all the cooking? Not sure what you're referring to. Anyway, never mind. No, I'm not married. I do not have children. I definitely would like to have a family someday. Now, some of you very clever people who have a very, very fine-tuned gaydar will have managed to figure out that I am, in fact, the gay. I'm one of those old benders. So, unfortunately, I have not found a husband for myself, and no children, anything like that. I would love to have a family one day, but one thing at a time. I need to first find myself a good husband, and then we'll see. And will I do all the cooking? Well, I'm probably. The thing is, I've heard this from other people who are chefs, either women or men, that when they're married, is it just gets on their tits if the spouse is in the kitchen, because they're not going to do it the way they want to. Because if it's your kitchen, you have your exact setup. You have your cutting boards are there, your knives are there. It needs to be washed up in a very specific way. It needs to be done in a very specific way. The spices, the spice racks, on the left side are all the herbs, on the right side are all the spices. In the middle, you have all the spicy spices or whatever. You have a very exact setup, because as a chef, you see things much differently, naturally. As any job that you do, when you do it for a while, you pick up on things, and you see things that other people don't. And so naturally, you have you set up the way that it works well for you. And then if somebody else comes in there and decide to mess around in there, it gets very it can get quite annoying. And so I've heard from other who are married, have boyfriends, girlfriends, and so on and so forth, that that's always a bit difficult. So that's why I'm probably always going to be the cooking, except maybe on my birthday or something, then he can treat me. Oh, I say. SP chef, I'll get you a good Canadian boy. Well, they are very polite, apparently. So that would be much appreciated indeed. All right. Oh, hello, darling. It's Fluffer Squirrel UK, or as I like to call her, Madam Squirrel. Funny little backstory. When I first saw like one of her comments or something, I don't think it was on my. I hadn't had the channel yet. I think it was on the interview that I did with Jeff, and then I referred to her at the time, Mr. Squirrel, and then eventually she informed me, actually, I'm a nutless squirrel. If you get it. And so since then, I've been calling her Madam Squirrel. So it's wonderful seeing you here, darling. Right, let's have a look if there are any other questions or comments or anything funny like that. Question: how about a recipe for clear chicken soup? Are you being funny, as in clear, the state of clear of in Scientology? That would be actually, yeah. We can do a broth. We can do a chicken broth, a nice clear chicken broth. We can do a consommé, which would be a double broth. So what you would do, usually you do a consommé with beef, but in theory you could do it with chicken too, of course. It's just not going to be, it's going to be a little darker because you add more meat to it, but not a lot darker, because consommé has the characteristic that it is quite dark, because what you do, you make a normal bouillon, a normal broth with beef, and then you use that broth that you made, which is perfectly fine to be served. But then what you do, you take mincemeat, you add some vegetables to it, you add some egg into it, and you mix it all together, and you put it into the soup, and then you basically cook it. You make it boil. Well, it's not supposed to boil. It needs to simmer a little bit, and then that's how you make a consommé. So it becomes a double bouillon in a way. So it becomes even more intense. And in theory, you could do that, of course, with chicken or with any other animal. So that's something we could do, because consommé, that is quite a very tricky thing to do. But I'm not sure if that is. I'm not sure if consommé is. I mean, we can try it. A bouillon, we can certainly try out a chicken broth, and we can call it the clear broth. It certainly is leaves a better taste in your mouth making that and trying that than actually paying for clear. Thank you very much. Right. Let's see. Thank you for the questions so far. Very interesting. Yes, indeed, we do like her very much. And with me, I do mean the royal we, as in I. Right. Marvelous. And now I do want to address something that wasn't asked yet, or I haven't seen it yet. But I have been asked as well, like if I'm going to go and do some protests and film that here in Switzerland. We have two Scientology orgs, and the answer to that would be actually no. And the reason being is, well, I mean, no, I might do some protests anyway, but I just can't record it, because in Switzerland the privacy law are very, very strict. I think in Germany it's the same. Which obviously goes both ways. They're not allowed to record me visually or through audio, or obviously combined, without my strict permission, and I can't record them without their strict permission. Pictures, I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to take pictures of people, like random people. There are obviously certain scenarios, like for example, if you're a news reporter and things like that, and you film a camera and somebody stands in front and people are in the background that walk around, I think there are certain situations like that where that would be okay. But for example, another thing you can't do in Switzerland is steal other people's rubbish, their garbage. That's something in America I've heard, that people take the garbage to figure out what did this evil SP do, and sort of trying to jigsaw puzzle whatever is in there. And that's something not allowed in Switzerland. You're not allowed to just take someone else's rubbish without their permission. They have to give you permission to do that. So there are good parts about it. So, I'm not going to be harassed in that way. But on the other hand, I can't really do that sort of protest or anything. Or I can't do like a sneaky thing like Jeff from PTS for Life. He's done this a few times, where he would go into, I think he did it twice now, where he would go in one of the orgs and have a recorder playing, and then just sort of pretend I'm just here. What is this? The Netics. I've heard. Oh, it's Dianetics. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I've heard about that. What's that exactly? And he just pretends to be a new person. And I would love to do that, but it's not allowed. You're not allowed to do that here in Switzerland. So, yeah, that's that. Okay. Let's see. Another question from Rosen. Question: how come you're still singing? You're so cute. Darling, if I knew that. No idea. Maybe I'm just I don't know. I don't really know. I mean, I guess it has a little bit to do with my last breakup that I had. I mean, which was in 2017. Goodness, that has been now almost 7 years. And that was very, very, very bad for me. And it took me many years to recover from that. because I was really sure this was the one, you know. So, and I don't know, maybe that has sort of held me back a little bit. But I mean, since about a year or so, no, about a year and a half or so, I would say, I've completely gotten over him. I mean, it did take me some time because it was rather unpleasant, the whole scenario and so on and so forth. Yeah, I don't know why I'm single. I mean, I can cook. I make such good egg Benedict for breakfast. So, you know, I'm just saying, just putting it out there. All right. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. I'm in the replay crew. Thank you very much for anyone on the replay crew. And if you have any, if you do have any questions, again, please, well, put it now in the chat naturally, or down in the comment section. You know, for all the class, in case anybody else has the same question, and then we can get on to that. Here's a little comment about. I'm assuming you mean about the fact that I can't do this sort of auditing that you can see on other streams in America. You can't do that. No, it's not. It's not allowed. But again, it goes both ways. So I can't. I'm not going to be harassing. I'm not going to have people come to my place or whatever place of work and things like that. So you know, it's good because both ways it works. So yeah, that doesn't mean I'm not going to do some sort of protest. But you know, if you are there on your own doing the protest and you don't, you know, you're not doing a live and you have people like in the live and they're sort of like, yes, you go get them or whatever, it's a bit difficult motivating yourself when you're there on your own. So we'll see. I mean, if there are different people also in Switzerland protesting and writing reports about Scientology and so on and so forth, so maybe something can be done there and then we can just protest there and it won't be recorded, but that's fine. I mean, you don't protest for the sake of, you know, being recorded. But if there's a number of people there, it's just more motivational, you know, rather than being there on your own. It's a bit, if you know what I mean. All right. Indeed. It must be half a century not to be able to steal people's rubbish. I know. They love it. They love what's it called? Rubbish dumping, diving, rubbish diving, or whatever. Well, I mean, what else are the SEAL members going to do all day? I mean, it's just busy work all the time, so they need to do something, don't they? Okay. Here we are, LA in Toronto. If you come over here for a visit, they don't know you. We can get you in. I'd even let you stay and use my induction range. Oh, induction range. I understand. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. It is better. It is better than gas, although gas is pretty good. Induction range, for anyone who doesn't know, you have different kind of ranges to cook on, and induction works with magnets, and it basically causes an extreme fast movement. And through this friction, obviously, you have heat. And that's why the metal gets hot very, very quickly, and you can get stuff done very, very quickly. And if you're not used to it, the first time I used induction, I burned lots of stuff because I automatically just put it on up all the way, thinking it's going to take a moment until it's actually hot, but it's instantaneously. So yeah, I mean, if I were to come to America someday, or even to England or whatever, then I'll be quite happy to protest there. So yeah, I'm sure these are future things that might happen. Here's a question about Switzerland being gay friendly. Oh, yeah, very much. There are absolutely no laws in Switzerland that a gay, a lesbian person, couples, that they don't have. We are completely on equal footing. There's nothing, as far as I'm aware, anyway. I've never encountered anything in any way that's a problem. Talking about the law, obviously you always get some people who have a problem with that, and that's fine. But the law protects you. Also, workspace, you can't be discriminated about because of that, and so on and so forth. So yeah, as far as I know, there are absolutely no laws that are still against homosexuals, or rather, that heterosexuals have an advantage over homosexuals. Not that I'm aware of. Yeah. Where are you born in? Well, I was born in Switzerland, in Basel, which is in the very north of Switzerland, and yeah, and that's where I live now as also. Here's a cheeky second question. What is your favorite suppressive dish to make? You can add as many questions as you want. There's no limit. Everyone can ask as many questions as they want. My favorite suppressive dish, I can't really say. I mean, the sort of kitchen I like to, the sort of flavors I like to use is classical French cooking, because that's in what I was trained in, and I would say that's what I can do best, really. I do like to cook Asian food as well, but I wasn't trained in that, so I wouldn't. I much prefer cooking French cuisine because I'm much more familiar with it. I've been asked if I'm still in contact with my father. No, that's fine. Well, I have two fathers in a way, because I have my genetical father, and then I've got my stepfather, who is also divorced from my mother. So with my genetical father, I don't really have any contact with him. Not for any particular, not because anything happened recently, like because of the YouTube that I'm doing or anything like that. It's just that he hasn't really been around much, and I do have some beef with him, for not doing anything about what my mother was doing with us, for letting us, just simply us, as in my brother, my sister, and I, sign our CO contract when we were 9. I was 9 years old. My brother was uh, 12, and my sister was 13 years old when we signed the seal contract. That, he didn't do anything about that. I mean, yes, sure, he was divorced, but he was still the genetical father. He could have done something about that. And these are sort of things. And there are other things that have happened, and where I just thought to myself, I don't need to be, I don't need that, really. And with my stepfather, I'm still very much in contact, and I do see him. We write, and yeah, it's friendly between us. Right. Let me just see if there are any question right now, because then I'm gonna again pop out of the stream for a moment, check up on our fridge cake if it's already solid, because then I would like to cut into it so you can have a look at it. I mean, if I can't, then that's fine. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory how it's gonna look. All right, let's have a look. Right. Here from Fluffer Squirrel, I do hope you're okay. I've been seeing in the chat that you've not been so well. I do hope my weird little dad jokes and whatever have given you a little bit of a smile. So anyway, I do have a question. What would 3-course meal would you make for a vegan that you care about a lot? It was for Mary. Oh, Mary Berry, goodness. I could never do any. I'd be too nervous. I'd probably be going every 10 minutes on the toilet having explosive shits or something, because I'd be so nervous. No, I couldn't possibly. A 3 vegan. Well, I mean, there's quite a lot of things you can do with vegan food. What I don't like using, because it is very unhealthy, I find, is this this pretend meat, this pretend sausages that look and smell and sort of taste and have a similar consistency to meat, but it is such highly processed food. And sure, I mean, if you have this every once in a while, I think it's okay. But it is so highly processed, the food. Obviously, the more processed the food is, the unhealthy it becomes. And so I wouldn't do things like that. I would do like a nice, good curry. I would do a nice curry. So what did you ask? 3-course meal? A 3-course meal. Okay, so first, we can do several courses. So first we'll start off with something cold. We'll do a nice little salad depending of the season. We'll do some seasonal leaves. We'll do a nice little light dressing, maybe with a bit of with a bit of mustard, olive oil, some vinegar, salt, pepper, some herbs. Very simple, with maybe some seasonal vegetables in it. And then a second, we'll do a soup. Obviously, it depends. Well, we can also do a soup in the summer. We'll do a gazpacho, which are cold. It's a cold soup. And we can do that vegan. That's not a problem. And then we can do, for example, several courses after that vegan. We can make let me just think about it. Yeah, we can make pasta. We can make vegan pasta. We can make vegan sauces. There are lots of great vegan products you can buy that you use. For example, in this restaurant that I'm working now, we have this. It's like cream, but it's made from nuts. Like you can buy, for example, almond milk. There's also like a cream version of that. You can make great things out of that. I would do a really nice curry, with chickpeas, with lentils, with lots of roasted vegetables. Have a nice basmati rice. In the basmati rice, we put a little bit of cardamom, some clover, some cinnamon, some bay leaves. Make it really nice, like that. A good curry like that. And then there are several vegan dessert options also. Anyway, this is a rather long-winded explanation, but there's plenty of things we could do. And I gather from your question that you are vegan. So yeah, we can definitely do something there. What? Please say America again. That was adorable. I for a while actually, I once heard an audiobook from a book. Well, obviously, but what was the book called? I don't remember. But it was basically playing just after, like the whole book was about. It was during the reign of King George III with the Prime Minister Pip, and under his reign, America gained its independency. And this novel is happening right after that, like a few months after that. And the king always goes, "Oh, the colonies," and then Mr. Pitt always like, "Sir, they are now called the United States of America." So I don't know, maybe that's where I got it from. Anyway. Oh, hello, the chief of SP Security, Mr. Brad. Hello, handsome. Well, hello, handsome back. Right, so I'm gonna quickly have a check out the fridge cake. Make sure, well, have a look if it's already solid, if you can already cut into it. And then depending on, if you can cut into it or not, in either case, we're gonna then wrap this stuff up. We've been just over an hour, and answer any other questions. Please do write down any questions now, because I will be intending to wrap this up. And yes, do write some questions, talk among yourselves and all of that. I'll be back in just a moment. All right, I'm back again, and I remember to remove the mute. So now it's here. It's not done yet. It has already started to harden, but I can tell it's still a little bit liquid on the bottom. But this is basically how it looks. And as you can see, I added the marshmallow in a way, so I know, okay, this is how I'm going to cut it. I'm going to cut it in 3 and then in 5, and then each portion will have one of these marshmallows, as well as some of the biscuits that I put on top. As you can see, some of the biscuits. Can you focus? Please focus over here. Please be a darling. Anyway, I think you get it. And yeah, it's a very simple little thing. As I said, I wouldn't really serve this as a dessert because it's a pretty hefty dessert. But maybe, you cut it down, you cut little squares out of it, and then you serve it with coffee or tea or anything or things like that. Um, anyway, so I'm not going to be able to cut it because, as I said, it's still liquid. Well, liquid. It's a little bit, runny. Yes. So anyway, but I hope visually you understood what the task, and it made sense and all of that. Anyway, stop rambling now, Samuel, and let's have a look if there are any more questions. Yes. Here is a nice little comment from Rem Arts. So, are you an artist? I'm curious. I enjoyed your spirit and watching you embrace who you are despite what Scientology said. Yes, thank you. And it took some time. It took some time to accept myself and sort of be who I am without hiding it, and so on and so forth. And although I am who I am now due to my experiences, all the good and all the bad, I don't try to forget about what happened, but rather learn from that. And I think that gives one more compassion for other people. You know what I mean? Because I used to be very impatient with people. Because in the SEOC, you have to get things done immediately, now, 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 now. And there's no sympathy, there's no patience, there's no pity. As a matter of fact, pity is very much looked down upon. You cannot have pity for people. And I had this sort of attitude for a while as well. And sort of looking back at my past and sort of saying, all right, sort of talking to my younger self and say, okay, what happened to you was pretty shitty, to say it nicely. But look where you are now. Look what you have accomplished, where you're at. And, my past has shaped me the way that I am now, and it's fine. And I'm quite happy with how it turned out in the end. So I think it's important to make peace with your past and sort of accept this happened and don't try to forget about it, because I think things then just sort of bubble under the surface all the time. Anyway, that's sort of my 2 cents or whatever the saying is on that. Here. Samuel is asking, because earlier I answered a question, so obviously I didn't understand that. Samuel is asking if you were born in to Scientology, if they recruited you. Right. No, I was born into it. So I grew up as the youngest child of 3 in a Scientology household. So my very earliest memories have to do with Scientology. I've been doing Scientology courses since I was able to read. So yeah, I was born into it. I'm a so-called second generation. Yeah. I beg your pardon. Like your men, women? Well, I'm into men, so if that's the question, I don't know. I don't know if I have to make my wrist even more limpy for you to understand. But yeah, I'm not sure. Clarify if I don't know. I mean, there's a smiley emoji, so maybe you're just sort of having a little bit a laugh. All right. Born in equals where your parents SEOC or public. Right. Okay. Very good point. These are very specific things, actually. So my parents, when I was born, so I was born, and my parents then divorced about a year and a half after I was born. And my father at the time, my genetical father, I'm pretty sure he was not staff. I don't know if my mother was at the time when I was born staff, but the earliest memory of me was that she was staff. So either she was already staff, or she was only, or maybe she was just intensely helping out in the org, and then later on became staff. But for me as a child, I didn't perceive it as being different because she was always working in the org. Well, always mainly working in the org, and at the same time having a second job, because obviously you don't make enough money working for Scientology. And then my stepfather, he came into the picture shortly after that, and he was also staff in the org. So I grew up with 2 staff members, and then later on, when my siblings and I rejoined the Sea Org, my brother, my sister, I'm the youngest, so my brother and sister, they're older. They went to Denmark to go there in the Sea Org, and then my parents and I, we went to Saint Hill in England to join the SEOG. And then later on, my stepfather, he left the SEOG. He divorced my mother. He left the SEOG, came back to Switzerland, and then sometimes a few years later, I followed. All right. Oh, that's just a casual little question. What is the answer to life, the universe, and everything? What was it? 42 or 49? If you know, you know. That is the answer to everything. Here you write, I mean your stepfather. Let me just trying to find your question. I may have already answered your question. Yes. You asked me the question about if I'm still in contact with my father. Yes. My stepfather, as I already answered, I still am in contact with him. For now, because again, I'm doing this suppressive stuff. And I'm adding more to it because I obviously use always my suppression in all my cooking, so I make it even worse. And so yeah, eventually, if there will be a point, I'm just sort of waiting for it to happen, that he will either because he will have to choose between me or his other two children, right? It's sort of like, what are you gonna do about it? So I am expecting that to happen. And after my sister, my brother-in-law, they disconnected from me, I sort of said, that's it. I'm gonna do this YouTube thing now, because now it started. Now the ball started to roll. So they disconnect from me. So other people in my family, they will be disconnecting from me. So I just said, you know what, F it. Let's just start doing this YouTube channel, because there are, not that I'm aware of, any YouTube channels from Switzerland talking about Scientology and so on and so forth. There might be. I'm not aware of any. And so I thought, I need to talk about this and, bring it out there. So yeah, my stepfather might very well be disconnecting from me. I don't know. Yes, so I'm going to do a few more questions, and then I think we'll call it a day. Here, clarified, 42. Thank you very much. That's the answer to the life, the universe, and everything. And no, I'm not talking to my brother-in-law at all. He has completely disconnected from me, as well as my sister completely. I have no communication at all. Only via, I could possibly have one via my brother or my stepfather in some way, but it would, like, they probably wouldn't even want to answer. Like, if I had a question or whatever, they would probably just hear it, because they tell them, because my brother, my stepfather, they would tell them whatever the question or statement is, but they just wouldn't act on it. I don't even know if my brother or my stepfather would do that, if they would just simply say, oh yeah, sure, I will tell them, Samuel, and then in the end they don't, they wouldn't say anything. Right. Oh, I'm so glad, darling. I'm cheering you up. I'm very glad. And I do hope this little stream was a tiny little silver lining to your day, and to all of you, obviously, all of your days, naturally. Right, so let me see if there are any more questions, and then we'll wrap it up. I think I said this now for the fourth time. Anyway. Right. You guys talking a little bit amongst yourselves. It's very nice seeing that. Got some nice little comments. Keep the vids coming. I'm loving every bit of it. Oh, yum chocolate. Indeed. Right. Yes, Fluffer Squirrel has been writing some ideas about food, and sounds wonderful. My favorite salad is with watermelon, balsamic vinegar, and walnuts. I don't know if it has a name. It may have a specific name. I'm not sure. There are very classic sort of salads that have names, but these are salads that have been around for like 100 years, like literally. So they have this very classic name. So I'm not sure. This could be a more modern sort of salad, so maybe it hasn't really been given an official name. I'm not sure, but yeah. And then somebody else wrote about watermelon with vinegar. Anna, yes, it may sound a little strange, but the acidity. You see, the way you remove acidity is by adding sugar and vice versa. Like, for example, Coca-Cola, and there are other brands available naturally. Well, what is the taste of the Coca-Cola? Coca-Cola is caramel, so it's sugar that has been heated to 143 degrees Celsius. I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit. And then at that point, sugar will start caramelizing. And then after it has caramelized, you add water to it, and then that's the basis for the Coca-Cola. But it is far too sweet. It is way too sweet. So what do? They add lemon juice to it to balance it out, so it doesn't taste as sweet, but you still take in a lot of sugar. So when you have, for example, watermelon, which can be very, very sweet, if you add a bit of vinegar, it sort of neutralizes it a little bit, and it gives a little, it accompanies the flavor, because you have different layers of flavors, like the initial flavor, and when you put something in your mouth, then the flavor that develops while you're chewing, you're cowing, that's German, while you're chewing, and then that's the sort of the what's the word, developing flavor as you are eating the food, and then saliva gets added to it, and sugars are starting to be broken up. It starts in the mouth and then it continues in the stomach, right? And then that sort of changes the flavor, and then after you swallow it, and sort of the after flavor, that all has different levels of flavors. And if you add different complexities, like you add salt, you add sugar, you add vinegar, you add maybe something bitter to it, because the tongue has different parts where it tastes different things, right? So it is able to taste all the different things at the same time, but it's obviously difficult to experience it all at the same time, literally. So you might get it at first, when it first touches your mouth, you might get first a sweet flavor, and then after a while it gets a little bit vinegary, a bit of acidic, and then afterwards you might get a little bitter, and then in the end you have a little bit of a salty or whatever. It obviously depends what it is, but so there are some strange combinations that when you read them, you think to yourself, that's a bit strange, it's a bit odd, but then they actually go very well together. So just wanted to say that. Anyway, right. Oh, that's very funny. Here's some suggestions for recipes: Xenu stew, fair game pie, reactive salad, and Thetan cheese dip. Excellent. Or maybe Thetan cheese, mac and cheese, something like that. Yeah, why not? Good ideas for names. Here, I asked earlier. Yes, I'm an artist. Excellent. Nice meeting a fellow artist. Right, here's a question about therapy. Have you been to therapy after leaving the Sea Oak? If so, how many years after you left? I watched all your videos with Jeff, but I don't remember. Oh, thank you very much for watching. So Anna, yes, some of you may know this. I don't want to bring the mood down, but I have tried to, delete myself, as they say on YouTube. And my last attempt was in 2019. And after that, I was, I wasn't forced, but I was heavily recommended I should go to therapy and, go over that. And, it didn't go so well. It didn't go so well. What I mean by that is the person I did the therapy with, we just didn't match. It just didn't work out. And then after a while, I was getting a bit annoyed because I paid her so much money and it didn't really do anything for me. It didn't really help me. And so I stopped doing that. And I did it for, I think, 3 months, maybe 4 months. 3 months, I think, about 3 months. And then I stopped that. And since then, I didn't ever do anything more. I mean, I've been doing some other things to help, like, taking walks, going out in nature, talking to friends about these sort of things, and hearing their point of view, hearing my story, and that certainly helps as well. And just also looking at life in general, and sort of be also very grateful for all I have. I mean, I'm so very grateful for all I have, that I can still show me the assistance, but I still have all my eyes, my two eyes, that I have all my fingers, that I have my arms, my legs, I can walk, I can work, I can earn a living, I have friends, I have family, I have all of these things in my life. I have all my beautiful on this side, all my beautiful books here, and so on and so forth. There are many things I'm very grateful for, and something what I did is I wrote them down. I wrote down all the things I was grateful for, to just sort of visualize. And it was so much stuff, and that sort of puts everything into perspective, and you sort of realize, okay, sure, you didn't have a great time as a child growing up, but look where you're at now. And that sort of helped me also come out of my gloomier moods and depressions and things like that. I mean, I do still get bouts of depressions and things, but it's much less than in the past. And obviously, just taking the piss out of myself and my whole situation, and not taking really the whole Scientology thing very serious from my past. I mean, obviously still looking at it and, trying to understand what happened, but, not being all too serious about it. And that sort of helps me deal with it. And it has some, side effects, that is maybe some cringy moments in my videos. But anyway, so let's have a look. Ice cream is the answer to everything. Yeah, pretty much. I do agree. The ice cream has fixed pretty much many things. Right. Dodge the protesters, yes. Obviously, there are lots of different channels going, so I watch them here and there. Sometimes I watch the whole thing. Sometimes I work at home, maybe I paint or whatever, and then I have that in the background. Sometimes I watch for 15-20 minutes or whatever. I always try to watch a little bit to sort of be up to date on all the things that are happening. Right. For the fourth or fifth time, I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna just have a look. I don't want to. It's my first live, and I don't want to leave any questions unanswered. What is that? Can we have a lesson on making spam sarnies? Is that like bubble and squeak? It's like one of those weird names for a dish. Please let me know what that means exactly. Right, I don't see any question marks. Also, any questions really? Laughter is healing. You're quite right, Anna. It is. Do you have to wrap it for you? Do you have to? No, look, I'm not in any hurry. I still could go on for an hour, but as it was mentioned before, there are quite a few other channels and so on and so forth. And it's been now almost an hour and a half, and I think that's a good length. If you do have any more questions, put them down in the description. I will answer them as well as I can. And I'm planning to do another Q&A, obviously, in the future, and then I can maybe pick those up again. All right, so I think this is it. Right, well, this is it. Thank you very much indeed for all of you darlings to have come by and be on my silly little fridge cake recipe, and sort of chatting about my time in Scientology, in the SEOC and in the Cadet, and all of that. I do hope you find it rather interesting, entertaining. Please consider hitting the like button and subscribing if you haven't subscribed yet. And hang on a moment, I actually have something prepared. Yes. So this is my email address if you want to write directly to me, either because you want to tell me about your story in Scientology, or maybe you were never in Scientology, but you just wanted to talk to me. I just want to make it clear I'm not like a therapist or anything like that. But if you just want to reach out to me, obviously everything you write to me, it's gonna stay between us. Unless you want me to talk about it, or if it's something interesting, like information. For example, if you are somebody still in Scientology and you want to tell me, oh, right now they're doing this and that, I will ask you if I can share this information. So yeah, yes, there you go. Now it is gone. Okay. Anyway, so I wish you a most excellent evening, afternoon, or morning, as the time of day applies. I wish you a most marvelous and excellent day. And yes, goodbye.